Welcome to SEC Football Live here on the 440 Sports Network, brought to you by ML Rose, and rarely are we live, but we're working on that. My name is Braden Gall, and that is Wes Rucker, 25 years covering the SEC and the Tennessee Volunteers for various outlets. Wes, good to see you, sir. How are you?
Doing all right. And I guess I'll say straight off the top that it is my fault, I think, that we're not live today because I had to move the time. It's funny. I haven't really done anything for a month, but today I'm like, I don't know. I think traffic's been bad lately. School pickup. Hey, can we move it up a little bit? So yeah, that's my bad today. My bad.
It's all good, man. It's good to see you. That's a sweet lid you got there with a retro Montreal baseball club. So we're gonna have some fun. We're gonna talk storylines heading into training camp, of course, as training camp is here. I just got back from Titans practice field, and it is hot as shit, Wes.
Yeah, it is.
It is insanely hot in Nashville, Tennessee. Heat advisory out there, of course, for the last couple of days. First couple of days in pads, though, so it does feel like football is here. I know it kind of sneaks up on me every year. I take a vacation, I come back, I'm like, oh, wait a second, we got camp. So we're going to discuss some of our top storylines. I want to find out what's going on in Knoxville right now. I know it's where you're located. That's the beat you've been on. And I want to discuss Tennessee because all the preseason polls have the Vols kind of in that 8, 9, 10, 11 range. And I think Vols fans are kind of like, whoa, wait a second, what? So we'll get to that. And then, of course, the Big Ten. I know we've talked about this a lot on the show, but the messaging strategy, political strategy from the Big Ten conference at their media event following the SEC was quite comical to me. So we'll get to all of that. ML Rose, of course, 7 great locations in Nashville, now 7. They've got a 7th great location in my neighborhood, which my wife and daughters are very excited about. They've got great drink specials on Saturdays. So for college football fans, if you're in Nashville, I know a lot of you live in Nashville as well. Obviously, ML Rose, great place to go watch games. TVs everywhere. Outstanding beer taps and a brunch menu, 2-for-1 beers on Saturdays. They have an SEC sandwich, Wes. It's called the SEC.
I don't know. It's got to have pork in it, right?
It does.
Yeah, there you
Absolutely.
go. That was my first guess. It's like, unless in Texas, they'd be like, no, I'd rather have brisket. But I think everybody else would pick pork, maybe.
We look, there's like one good spot in town for brisket, and they also sponsor the show, but they compete with ML Rose. So I'm not gonna mention them in Nashville.
ML I don't know what you're talking about. Who are you talking about? I don't know. Whatever. Who those guys? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So 7 great locations, and again, all craft beer, local, great burgers, and great drink specials on Saturdays and Sundays for football, NFL, college, SEC fans, etc. You know what's going on. All right. I think the SEC chant, when I don't know about you, because we got started about the same time. You maybe have been doing this a couple years longer than me. I started in 2005 at rivals.com. And I remember doing satellite radio at the time. We were doing the first ever. Mm-hmm. I was the producer for Bill King. It was the first ever national college football talk show in the history of this country. Very proud to have been a part of that. There was a lot of SEC chanting from fans that weren't winning games or championships, right? This is right around when Urban Meyer took over at Florida. There seemed to be a lot of Kentucky fan and Vanderbilt fan and South Carolina fan chanting SEC, SEC at teams that aren't their own. I feel like that has gone away. Like I think it's gone mostly up until a couple of years ago when the Big Ten starts winning back-to-back championships. So first of all, have you noticed there's still a Southern pride to the SEC? It just means more is more than just a marketing slogan. But I thought it disappeared. I don't hear it much anymore. Do you think that is still a thing that exists?
I think it kind of depends. I think it's almost like an a la carte basis around the league, because I think there are some places where maybe they're not as good and their record's not as good some years. So then they take pride in being in the SEC. I think there are some places where, they have rivalries that run so deep and so bitter that you don't want your rival to win no matter what. Like, I can't imagine, in this state, I can't imagine there's any reason ever that a Vanderbilt fan would want a Tennessee team to win anything. Like, it's just not, if you ask them, that's just their DNA that's not how it is. So, that part is interesting, but yeah, I mean, when you've won so many titles in a row and then somebody steps up and takes it a little bit, I mean, we'll see if it changes anything. I don't think it will, although you mentioned the Big Ten, kind of marching orders at their media days. And then you could clearly see the Big 12 had some marching orders at their media days as well. Like, the SEC is still the number one punching bag because it's the number one league. Like you're not,
Yes.
you don't, it's almost like at times, and it's different around the league, but
it's low hanging fruit.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Big Ten really hates on the SEC, and the SEC kind of mocks the Big Ten, and that's maybe a little bit of the difference, if you could put it that way.
I'm about to mock them, and not in a way that doesn't, like, I'm from a Big Ten family originally. I'm an SEC grad, so I kind of have a little bit of both in my blood. I've never, I came to the SEC thing naturally as a student, but also through like analytical data. Like when you win all the championships, you have all the you have the biggest stadiums, you have more fans coming to games, you have more attendance, you are putting more players in the NFL, you pay more for coaches, you recruit at a more like ruthless and cutthroat level, at least until Urban Meyer went to Ohio State. Like based on every metric, the SEC was a quote unquote better league, deeper, more teams have won championships. I don't think we can debate that. But I came to it pretty naturally. I didn't come to it through my dad. Like my dad didn't teach me SEC chants and bitter rivalries. Like I actually came from a Big Ten family.
It wasn't in the blood or anything.
Right, exactly. So I feel pretty like honest as an honest broker of the analysis. I think the Big Ten has had two great seasons with two great teams, and I think everyone should learn from them, as I've said on the show. Retention is what Michigan did 2 years ago, what Ohio State did last year, and what Penn State's trying to do this year. But when they get up there in a very concerted and organized messaging way of saying, well, we play 9 games and we haven't benefited from the playoff committee because it's not comparing apples to apples. And I want to be like, first of all, college football as an exercise is comparing apples to like filet mignon. Like it's not even another fruit. Like the schedules,
peanut butter and motor oil.
The schedules are different inherently. It is part of the game. And so not every 9-game schedule is better than an 8-game schedule. And not every 8-game schedule, see Tennessee Volunteers last year and maybe even this year. Not every 8-game schedule is automatically tougher or easier. Tennessee's schedule is Missouri, relatively easy, quote unquote, SEC schedules. Then you look at Oklahoma and Florida and you're like, holy shit, those are much tougher schedules.
Yeah, much tougher.
So I guess I don't understand the argument that they are making, which is that everyone needs to be. I've said this on the show, Wes. I think it's politics. I think the Big Ten wants to force the SEC to go to 9 conference games, and no one in college football wants this 4-team automatic qualifier, buy your own participation trophy spot in the playoff garbage that the Big Ten is pushing. No one else wants it. No one else wants it.
Yeah, I've always said for years, and sometimes the sands kind of shift back and forth a little bit, but the SEC at some point in the near future is going to have a 9-game schedule. It's just, it is. And I'll tell you why, money is going to do it. And, and I remember, I'm just old enough to remember when the SEC went first to 7 conference games. And the argument was, and I was a kid then, but I remember the argument was, oh, you can't win a national championship now. Well, and that was BS. And then I remember when it went to 8 games, and when it went to 8 games, everybody said, oh, you can't win a national title. And then Spurrier and Fulmer are like, what's up? Like they got them. So, I mean, it's not every time they make this same exact argument that you can't win championships doing this. It was BS then, it's BS now.
The championship game was the concern, right? Oh, Florida's going to knock them out of the championship.
You add 8 games and then you add a championship game and you can't do it this way. And it was all wrong. And so now if I'm a coach in the SEC, I fight this the way I do the exact same thing they do. I stand on a mountain and I grab a sword, or I turn around like Jon Snow with everybody running at me, and I fight all of them because I don't want. It's hard enough, right? There's enough pressure, so I get why. But if the
Big Ten is standing on the other mountain saying, "You know nothing, Jon Snow. You know nothing."
Basically, yeah. And so, but what's funny is that if you were to pretend that we were in PR and not what we're doing. They're all arguing what they should be arguing. Like they have gotten their talking points down and they are making.
I don't know about that.
Well, I think they're making. Well, the Big 12 guy just was kind of a little amateurish or something.
But the 8-4 Iowa argument is not a good messaging strategy from Tony Petitti.
Yeah,
bad argument.
That there were flaws within what would have been a lawyer would call it a good argument except for
Fair
a
enough.
couple of those things. But I mean, I think, listen, the Big Ten, I do not disrespect it. I laugh at the weather. I laugh at the 9:30 a.m. games. But it's they have three programs really that one
Well,
elite.
Oregon now. They've added Oregon.
Yeah, okay, we have four. I'll go four. I'll put Penn State in there. I mean, they've got, for Penn State, Oregon, they've got 4-5 programs that year
Yep.
in, year out, with the odd miss here and there, they're gonna be good. The difference is the middle and bottoms of the league. That's where
USC's got some heavy Auburn vibes,
yeah,
like
they do, and of course with the chaos factor too.
right,
Yeah, I
right.
mean, there's all kinds of thing in there. It's like it's like every year, right? There's like 4 programs around the country
Yeah, yeah,
that are always in some kind of chaos, one way or the other. It's Tennessee, Auburn, Louisville, and SC, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
there's always some sort of drama or chaos there. Texas too, kind of. There's 4 or 5 where you just always have some kind of drama, but to some extent. But I think the Big Ten, it's not the aggregate of it, the average of it, the weight of it is not the SEC, but financially it
yep,
very much is. And so might makes right, and the Big Ten has enough money and prestige with those top end schools and enough
yeah,
power financially to dictate terms, not to the SEC, but to college football and college athletics writ
yeah,
large. Like,
yeah,
and then adding those West Coast teams going coast to coast, they've got nice, the other than, their fans hate those early games, but financially, TV wise, it was a good move. It's a well run league. It's a very smart league. It's got some very heavy hitters in the league.
yeah.
It is absolutely big time, big boy. It's just the SEC top to bottom is just better. And I think we'll see if some things change that with the salary cap basically and some other things. We'll see if that starts to trickle down and change some things, but I think
Yeah.
that would take a few years.
No, I agree, and honestly, the truth of the matter is, like, I think the sport is at its best when there is a healthy rival for the SEC.
Yes.
Like I like we can talk about how we love the inter SEC rivalries, and they are spectacular. I would argue every conference has spectacular rivalries. Like Washington State is a great rivalry in the state of Washington that SEC fans probably don't appreciate, but they don't like each other any less than Mississippi State do in the Egg Bowl. So what I find interesting though is like, and you talk to players a lot, and I know you've talked for decades to player like iron sharpens iron is something that the players like to talk about, especially in training camp a lot, where it's like, no, I'm getting better because I'm going against the good, right? Like it is better for the SEC to have a worthy competitor, to have
Yes.
Oregon be good, to have Nebraska be better, to have USC be good. That will make everybody better. When Urban Meyer left the SEC and went to the Big Ten, he elevated everybody else because he was like, no, you guys got to recruit like we do in the SEC, and he brought everybody up to that level.
Yeah, I think I'll one of my favorite quotes in my entire time in this business actually came from an old boss of mine, Shannon Terry, and he said that he used to say all the time that everybody needs a nemesis. And at the time, when I heard it, I was like, you know what, business wise, that might be one of the smartest things I've ever heard. Like because
And Terry also likes being the nemesis.
yes, he does. He loves doing that, and
Yeah.
so I love the guy. I mean, he not everybody does. I enjoy. Personally, I enjoyed working with the guy, and working for the guy. But what I mean is, the point being that everybody is a little bit better when they go there and they got an enemy board every day that they're looking at,
Right.
and or when they know, and this works in between, like inside leagues. It works between different leagues. Like if you're the SEC,
it works
and
on a depth chart if you're trying to earn a job.
Yes. If you're an SEC program or you're the league and you're worried about, man, if we go down just a little bit, man, the Big Ten's chomping right there to kind of get more, maybe it could, get a couple titles more here and there. It could do like it, all of a sudden it's not like, oh, you just if you beat an SEC team, anybody else in front of you, you're fine. Like that, you let up that little bit and you get burned.
Yep.
And I think that's the point, is that, it's why, another reason why, like, let's look at Alabama for years, what it was in football, because you had, 5 stars behind 5 stars and 4 stars behind 5 stars. And if those guys let up just a little bit, they knew Saban was putting the next guy in.
Exactly.
Like, I mean, he'll bench Jalen Hurts, MVP candidate Jalen Hurts, in the playoffs. Like, he'll do it because he can. And so if you are pushed that much, and if not everybody responds to that the right way, some guys kind of buckle under pressure and they kind of need to be the main guy. But if you're trying to win a championship in anything, you need a heavy majority of your guys to be guys who will thrive when they're pushed, because when bullets start flying in a game, you need that edge, you need that competitiveness. And I think that goes for leagues, that goes for teams, that goes for everybody. If you get complacent, you get burned a little bit. And I think that's why what happened, like for instance for Tennessee last season in the playoffs. I mean, should Tennessee have been seated where it was? No, it should have been seated a little better than that. And if they were doing it the new way, that wouldn't have happened.
They'd be hosting Indiana.
Yeah. And Ohio State, should it have ever lost a game No. Should it ever have been outscored in a quarter last season? No. It was the best roster in the country, and everybody kind of knew that.
Yeah.
And so when Tennessee got that, they were like, oh, well, they took some stock and, it'd be the Big Ten stuff. And, I can tell you this, inside the program, they knew some of those skill matchups were going to be a problem. They firmly believed their defensive line would be able to win the battle against that Ohio State O-line. They really believed that their D-line could get some push, because it had all year long.
It's pretty good.
Been a really good deal. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't like, oh my God, an all-time line. It was a good unit, a lot of old dudes, and they just got, there were a sack of taters in that game, dude. They got tossed left, tossed right. Yeah. And it was like, that right there is a wake-up call. Like, oh man, stepping outside the league, that could be pretty tough too. And so, and of course, then that, Tennessee's kind of had a tumultuous offseason in some ways, but my point was that as a program, things like that are good. As a league, things like that are good. And when Ohio State, other than the shot it took from Texas, was a good one, just kind of was waylaying people, including an Oregon team that had beaten it during the season. Like, dude, like that will get your attention and humble you in a hurry. And those things can be good in the long run.
Let's go to ML Rose, great local sponsor, keeping this show free for all of you. Let's go to Tennessee. You brought them up. Let's go there. Again, we at Athlon Sports have them at 10th, I think. I might actually we have Auburn at 11, Oklahoma at 9. I actually would have Auburn and Oklahoma switched. I think Tennessee will have a better record than Oklahoma, but I think that's more schedule driven. I think Auburn has a chance to be there. I'm not shy about how I think Auburn could be way better than people think this year. I think they're potentially a top 25 team. What is going on? Like, my analysis of Tennessee from a distance, or at least from across the state, is sort of like, look, I think this is a 7 or 8 win team at their best. I think they've got a lot of really good pieces, and I actually think that's a compliment to the coaching staff and to the job that they've done building the program, that they can lose as much as they have lost, including the star quarterback potentially, and still be a pretty good team with a high floor. Is that the right way to look at the program and to the team going into the season, or is there some other way I should be viewing it?
Yeah, it's a little bit mysterious in some ways, because I don't think you can be kind about it. And, I think you have to call things what they are. And Tennessee just has not maximized the momentum from that playoff run. Like, it's not had the kind of offseason where you go, man, they've been going on the way up since Heupel got there, and they're still going that way. Like, you win and lose football games. That's more important than winning and losing press conferences and off seasons and yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. So they can go prove it on the field that all this is BS. Like, they have a chance to go do that. Yeah. But there was you had a lot of players who were trying to play their NIL hands. You had a lot of uncertainty, the Nico thing, and now you got the Boo Carter thing hanging over it too a little bit. It's not been, I don't want to say it hasn't been managed well, because maybe Heupel's done a good job keeping it on the rails. Like, it's hard to know.
There's a lot more stuff that we know.
But at the end of the day, like, you did bring them in, so that is on you either way. But it's weird because there's so much uncertainty, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in a, hell, I don't know.
Statement of fact.
Yeah, like it's now every year they've had that uncertainty, right? Like every year there's been some level of uncertainty, and every starting quarterback who's played for Heupel, except for Nico, we'll see, is still in the league, right? They're not starting, but they're getting checks. There's not many guys getting checks in the league. They are.
Quickly give everybody for those that don't know what happened with Boo Carter. Tell everybody quickly what happened.
Now I'm being honest here. I am plugged in. I am not locked in, laser locked 24/7 like I normally am. Hey, there's an old name, but you know, it's like it's different. But I'm still obviously talking to people. I'm still hearing things. The kindest thing to say about Boo Carter is that guys mature at different stages. Some guys are mature when they get to school. Some guys are mature. They mature when they're in school. Some guys mature later. Some guys never do. And, you know, Boo Carter has not done it yet. And there have been questions about him as long as he's been around. Like this is not like, hey, this is not breaking new ground here, fellas. Like, you know, he went to what 47 high schools. I kid a little bit, but he moved around, right? And there were some issues, some questions, some things you had to worry about. He's always been a hell of a ball player. That's never been a question. He absolutely could play offense and defense and return kicks at this level. He is he's not Travis Hunter, but he's a really good football player. Yep. And so you've always thought, well, the juice is probably worth the squeeze, but you know, you never know. And, you know, and I think in defense, this is not saying in defense of Boo Carter. I'm saying if Tennessee had a more solidified kind of postseason feel around him, maybe you would have had less of this stuff, but it didn't happen that way. And so he's having to some maturity things and looking around and changing agents and missing meetings and doing the things that, let's call it what it is, that immature kids do. And he just hasn't grown up yet. And you'd like to see him do it, but you know, Heupel's giving him another chance. He's letting him, you know, he's basically saying, well, I'll tell you this, if you're trying to go somewhere else, we're not letting you do that right now. So you want to do that, you're doing that on your own without any help from this end. But if, you know, we can't stop you from going, but you know, they're not like paving the way, making it easier for him, like kicking him off the team and then letting him kind of, that opens things up for different things, right? If you don't kick him off the team, if he leaves of his own volition, it's a little difficult, a little more different. So basically Heupel saying, all right, you think you held all the cards, you don't. So we're going to keep the cards that we do have, and you can grow up and come play ball with us, or you can make things more difficult on yourself. And that's kind of, I think, what he's doing.
Well, and I think again, I think Tennessee is a solid football team this year, and we can get into some of the storylines here around the conference, because I do think, and this is going to be my last question for this conversation, because I think this can kind of go a lot of different directions, which is sort of like there's no access anywhere. There's no access to any school from the beat reporter standpoint to any of these.
Vanderbilt's okay for the people who are there.
True.
Like,
That's true.
And they'll give you some.
And I've gone, and you can go get pretty good access and watch most of the practice, actually, but from a distance. You're only allowed to sit like in the little thing, and you have to be far away. But it which is good. You can actually watch practice.
Yeah, that's different because at Tennessee, you know, you can't watch, you can't record mesh points on handoffs.
It's like, what are we doing?
Yeah, like, hey, guy, I get crazy thing. Sometimes you're gonna throw it. Sometimes you're gonna run it, and sometimes you're gonna fake a run and then you're gonna throw it. And but it's
sometimes you're gonna take a throw and you're gonna run it.
It's wild. They've got these RPO things. I mean, it's fine. Everybody does it. I mean, Heupel, but it's different when he was like, once about 2 weeks before the season starts, you will not see practice at all ever, not even a glimpse until bowls. And so it's like,
what I want to ask is, like, if you had unlimited access to go watch a few different things around the league, what are the things that you would like? I would want to go be in the quarterback room at Alabama. Give me, like, that's one that's at the top of my list. I would want to go be in that group. Mm-hmm. I want to know, like, South Carolina's defensive front, because they've got a superstar coming back in Stewart, but they lost literally everybody. So, like, if you have an opportunity to go get full unfettered access to a couple of different things around the league, it could be a coach, it could be position battle, it could be a unit, it could be a whole team. What is the thing that is capturing your mind right now at the start of camp, knowing that by the end of this I'm putting you on assignment here, right? At the end of this assignment, You've got like legitimately interesting stories to write about these different these different aspects of the league.
Yeah, and the caveat there would be that, and I started this when in the business when you could see scrimmages, when you could see pretty much every day of every practice if you want to. I remember when they started taking some of it away, we were like, oh, we're supposed to fight about this, but it's not the worst thing in the world, and I remember that. But, even in those days, you did not know, for instance, wait, am I seeing a really good offense or a really bad defense? What am I looking at here? So you never really, really know, and neither do coaches, no matter what they tell you either. They don't really know a lot until, kind of the season starts in some ways. But I mean, obviously they don't a hell of a lot more than we do, but it's not, there's a lot they don't know until the game,
and they know less.
The season.
They know less today about their own team than they ever have before.
Yeah, because a third of it's new every year, or a quarter. I mean, 40% of it's new every year, and so. I honestly, and it has nothing to do with the fact that I've mostly covered Tennessee in my career. Tennessee would be really high on my list because they're replacing a quarterback. They're bringing in a guy right before the season starts, basically almost in a way for the summer. They've got, basically an all new offensive line. they're bleeding in some, they're the SEC offensive player of the year is gone. Dylan Sampson. Like people always talk about quarterback. I'm like, hell, they got to replace 6. He was really good.
Yeah.
Remember, you forget that guy. And so, but they've got talent. So it's not like they're going to be terrible. I don't think. I guess it's possible. They would be on my list. I would like to see what's going on with Sellers in South Carolina.
South Carolina is so high on my list because they've never been in this position before.
Yeah, and I don't. And again, you say this from 30,000 feet up looking, but you don't know if they're ready for this. Like
right,
it is
right, exactly.
Like, and I tell people when I mean this, like when the gauntlet that you face and the fact that the pressure you're under at the top when you cannot miss, you can maybe miss once during the year, but you cannot miss. That is the difference. Like if you see like the difference between like the 8 for like the 9-10 win thing and like the 11-12 win thing, that is without question the hardest jump to make because you are getting everybody's fastball every single Saturday and they're good enough to beat you. And so you have to, and like, so is a South Carolina all of a sudden going to jump up from kind of consistently losing a decent number of games a season to, oh no, we're really a competitor now. Like we're really a contender. Are you? Because that's a lot to ask on a weekly basis. Plus, you got to stay healthy because they still don't have quite the depth at the top that some of the other teams do. What they've got in a lot of ways, good, really good. Sellers is really fun. There's a lot going on there.
And they're very athletic. Like they're going to be young and inexperienced, but they're athletic, especially on defense.
But then you look at some of the draft picks they had last season, and you're like, why weren't the numbers maybe a little better? Like that's kind of, you know what I mean? Like that's a little. You don't want to be rude about it in a way, but you got to be honest about things and say, hey, with some of those picks, man, like why have you not been a little better in some way? So because the league is tough and because you're trying to change a mindset of an entire program of what it takes. Like, why do you think someone like Saban never let up? Why do you think someone like Kirby never lets up and is always doing everything he can to find every bullshit excuse he can to get his team fired up and be, oh, hey, I saw this one guy living in Des Moines, Iowa, said that he thought you would lose this game and he bet against you on a parlay. He just threw it in at the last minute, but he thought, hey, you might not win this game by 100 points. And Kirby will go in there and throw it on the board. These guys think you're trash. We're underdogs. It's hilarious and stupid, but you get it because you have to get your guys that locked in all the time.
So it's interesting, like the 4 top teams in the magazine, and based on, like these are my 4 top teams too: Texas, Georgia, LSU, and Alabama. I think they're the 4 best. I think of that next group.
There's still some questions about Alabama. I think no question. There are some. I would put them in that group, but I would have some caveats there to be like, are you sure?
The question is like, of those 4, you can pick one to go cover. Like Georgia's so boring almost inherently, but they are more interesting this year at this time than ever before. Because of everything. Like the depth isn't the same. The quarterback's maybe not as talented, although I think he's going to be better than people think. Like they don't have the superstar talent coming in like Bowers and McConkey like they did 2 years ago. The names on defense we may not know them right now, but we will by the end of the season. So I'm interested in, I think Bama's the answer. If I said, hey, you can go to one of those 4 beats and get full access, which one are you going to?
Bama would be up there for sure, because I'm as fascinated by the culture change in that program as anything, because it's you do not replace the best who's ever done this, and without some hiccups. And you saw like last year, Alabama wasn't bad. They weren't bad,
Right.
but they just looked a little more human all of a sudden, very quickly, right? Like go to Nashville and lose, like things like that, losing some things that you're like, how did that happen? And it's because, well, maybe some credit to the guy who was there before, who was really, really, really good. And he had great players, but so what? That's part of it. I think they would be up there on my list for sure.
I think the middle of this league, like if you're going Florida, South Carolina, Ole Miss, A&M, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Auburn, like that
I wouldn't decline. I wouldn't turn down any of them to go cover the season.
Exactly.
Because now, well, I mean, my wife has a great career here in Knoxville, so I'd have to go fly. I'd have to go fly and see them on the weekends, because I made her leave. I made her leave DC 10 years ago, and a great job. I'm not doing it again now. So I'm here. And so, I'm not having her leave again. Like, she built another great career, and I'm like, hey, you want to pick up and move again? I think I'd get beat.
Yeah. Well, we all want to stay married. That's true.
Yeah. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. It's nice. Where your stuff
Oklahoma is right there with Tennessee and Auburn, as like, you bring in a new coordinator. You're doing the thing that Pavia and Jerry Kill and Clark Lee did last year, where you're bringing the coordinator and the quarterback in. Mateer has a ton of talent and a ton of upside. Arbuckle's a Texas guy who's like running this Texas stuff. It's going to be super fun and interesting on offense. Venables is on the hot seat. They've got an incredibly difficult schedule. They go and hire a general manager who's making waves. Like, everything about Oklahoma is interesting, when Oklahoma, almost by definition, found all of its success by being boringly good and consistent. And now it's fascinating to see what Oklahoma, Tennessee, South Carolina, those are like near the top of my list.
But see, everybody always talked about like the jump for Texas into the SEC as kind of a big thing. And I always thought, I don't know if they're going to win championships or anything like right off the bat, but they've got so much talent in every sport that they're going to be okay. Their issue is going to be what it's always been, which is that a couple times too many during the year, they're going to lay an egg. And that's a cultural thing they got to fix in their own yard, more so than it is.
I think they have. I think they.
Yeah, and there's no question they are well on their way. They're good. They're good. But I always at the time said, guys, we're not talking enough about Oklahoma here, because Oklahoma is a place where the expectations are sky high, and probably should be. It's Oklahoma. It's a traditional power. It's a great program, but it's got some challenges. Right? Like you're going in there to Texas to try to recruit against now A&M with the SEC money too. And, you're trying to pull from different places, and they've always been really good at kind of identifying and building and loading up and kind of keeping waves going here and there and sprinkling in some 5-star hot sauce with some really good, solid players. But their transition to the SEC could be a rocky one. Now they could go out there and fix it. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, but it could be like problematic for a little while. Like, they could have a hard time kind of adjusting to this, because it is different. Like it just is different. And they, at the time, just they weren't cycled up to the point where across the board where you're like, are they okay? And I think that's fascinating, because I agree they're making steps toward rectifying that. They've had a really interesting offseason with some of the stuff they've done, bringing in the guys the way that they've brought them in. And I think I would not turn down the opportunity to cover that team either, because that could be super fascinating.
Last one, we'll let you go. ML Rose, of course. Everybody, Wes Rucker. Where are you at on so are you still on the Twitter machine still? Is that still your drug of choice?
Yes, but I changed it to Wes Rucker TBA, because I wasn't sure. And the thing is,
fair enough,
the actual account, this is the dumbest part. I'll say this very quickly. There was the Twitter account that was just Wes Rucker, just my name, Wes Rucker. I've had it forever.
Take it.
But here's the problem.
Oh my God.
I've always stashed it for years, because I do the courtesy of whoever I'm working for at the time to put their name at the end of it, because I'm a team player. I'm a team guy.
Nice. You're too nice.
But the problem is this: you can only have one email per account, and the email that I have for the twitter.com/Wes Rucker account was my old CBS email that basically got,
no.
murder, death, killed. And so it got 86. And so it's sitting there, but I can't,
Nobody can get to it.
I
All
can't
right,
get
enough about your Twitter account.
I can't get Elon's tech robots to be like, hey, this is the same guy. It's fine. So basically, that's why it is what it is. So I might change it to
At Wes Rucker
stupid.
TBA. All right. The bottom here: Missouri, Arkansas, Vanderbilt, Kentucky, Mississippi State. I want to know your answer. My answer is Kentucky because it feels like you're really close friends who've been together for a long time are getting divorced and they just don't know it yet. And but they're still together.
I think they know it.
I think they do now, but you can't fire him because the buyout's huge, and he's not going to leave because the buyout's huge.
Mm-hmm.
And Iowa and Kirk Ferentz hasn't retired yet.
That's why they're giving more NIL money to basketball. They're trying to make this uncomfortable, I think.
Dude, I think Kentucky is so awkwardly interesting. I mean, they're all Mississippi State, Vanderbilt, Arkansas, Missouri. They're all interesting, but at the bottom, I would go to Lexington.
Yeah, and I've covered a couple seasons like this where a coach has been fired and there's an interim kind of holding down the road for the final couple weeks, and you're like, what are we doing here? Like, everybody knows that somebody else is gonna be here in a couple weeks, and he's not gonna retain you, and you're gonna go on, and But I mean, you're doing a nice thing here for the kids, but come on, man.
Yeah, you're staying together for the kids.
Yeah, like you're staying here now for the kids, and that's good, and for a paycheck, which is nice. But it's
$9 million.
That whole yeah. I mean, but that whole thing, it's like, yes, it's the same thing they did with Cal. And this time, they're not going to have an Arkansas come save them from this.
Unless Kirk Ferentz retires at Iowa, then he's just going to immediately take the job.
Yeah, and he would be a fit there. I would get that. But yeah, I mean, the whole thing, and you got, Morrow leaving, and you got all the there's always a little bit of drama going on there anyway. And in that state, and Louisville's throwing around lots of cash, and I get it. Like, they've done a really good job of that program to kind of get it to where it was. I never saw a clear pathway to getting it better than that. And I don't mean that as a disrespect. I mean, that it's a hard job. It's a hard job. Yeah. And you should shoot for the stars. You should shoot for everything every year. That should be your goal, right? But it's just kind of hard to see that being the case there. So when you kind of max out, then you kind of wonder, okay, we've given it our best shot. We got to where we got. Yeah. It's human nature to kind of scale things back a little bit and just kind of enjoy life, and I think that's happening.
Nope, I agree. Wes, dude, it's great to see you, man. And maybe we'll hear from you again sometime soon. So
would love to do it, man. Maybe. Next time I'll have the hopefully I'll have the background here not look like a hostage video where it's just a blank wall that it could be anywhere in the world. It could be in Kazakhstan right now. I've got a new thing planned.
Your internet is great for being in Kazakhstan, by the way.
I just haven't put it up. Yeah, it's better than better than assholes Uzbekistan, right? To quote Borat. So yeah,
my wife.
Yeah, my wife.
All right. ML Rose, everybody.
We'll end on that.
ML Rose, everybody. 7 great locations in Middle Tennessee. If you're already here, you know about them. Go check them out. They have a great Saturday menu for pre-gaming and watching college football games, because the season is here, boys. The season is actually here. Great to see you, Wes. Always a pleasure. My name's Braden Gall. Rate, review, subscribe, thumbs up, notifications turned on, the whole deal on YouTube as well. And give us 5 stars on your podcast app of choice. If you do not, you are a hater. Thanks for listening, everybody. For Wes, I'm Braden. We'll talk to you next time.